Why do we separate mixtures? So, to remove the harmful impurities, to extract a component from other components, to obtain a component in a highly pure form. Separation of solids. Here, in this, you are going to study about hand picking, sieving, winnowing, threshing, and magnetic separation. Okay, ma? So here, hand picking, distinctly different solid is called as hand picking. Next, you are going to see about sieving. Sieving is separating the solid of different size. Separating the solids of different size is called as sieving. Next one is winnowing. Winnowing is separating the lighter solid from heavier ones with the help of the wind. Winnowing means separating the lighter solids from the heavier one with the help of the wind is called as winnowing. Next one is threshing. Here threshing is removing the grains from the stalks. Threshing means removing the grains from the stalks is called as what? Threshing, separation. Here, separating the magnets from the non-magnetic substance is called as magnetic separation. Next, you are going to see about separation of solid liquid mixture. In that, you are going to study about churning, sedimentation, decantation, and filtration. Churning. Churning means separating the dissolved solid from a liquid. Churning means separating the dissolved solid from a liquid. Next, you are going to study about sedimentation. Sedimentation means settling down of suspended insoluble heavy solids. Okay, ma? Sedimentation. Sedimentation means settling down of suspended insoluble heavy solids. Okay, ma? Next, you are going to study about decantation. Decantation means separating clear supernatant without disturbing the sediment. Decantation. Decantation means separating clear supernatant without disturbing the sediments. Decantation means separating the clear supernatant without disturbing the sediment. Next one is filtration. Filtration means separating the insoluble solid from a liquid. Separation. The separation method may be based on the particles, size, shape, or physical state. They may be solid, liquid, or gases. We use a strainer to remove the tea leaves to get the clear liquid. Larger sized particles of the tea leaves will be retained by the strainer while the clear liquid will pass through. This is called filtering. A sieve is similar to a strainer. Sieve is used when we have to separate solid particles of different size. Example, bran from flour, sand from gravel, etc. A wire mesh as a strainer sieve is used to separate gravel from sand at a construction site. When very fine insoluble solids have to be separated from a liquid, as in butter, from curd, churning is performed. The mixture is churned vigorously when the solid butter will be collected on the sides of the vessels. Both the butter and the buttermilk are obtained after churning, are useful and can be consumed. Threshing. When we pluck flowers from plants, we are separating the flowers from their stalk. Can we do the same for food grains like rice and wheat? It is not possible because the grains are small in size and also the quantity is very large. Farmers separate grains from their stalks by beating them hard. The grains are separated from their stalks. This is called threshing. Winnowing. It is an agricultural method for separating grains from husk. Rice, wheat, and other food grains are covered in husk which cannot be eaten by us. Husk is very light and gets easily blown away by a breeze or wind. This method is winnowing. This is done by dropping the mixture slowly from a height in the presence of wind. Lighter solids, that is husk, will be carried by wind and will be collected in a separate heap, while heavier solid, that is grain, will fall closer and form a separate heap. If the rice that we cook has stones in it, we have to pick the stones out. So that is called as hand picking. How do we identify a stone from a grain of rice? If the stones are visible, different from the grain, they can be picked easily and separated by hand. This is called hand picking. Magnetic separation. In a mixture containing iron, the magnetic property of iron can be used to separate it from non-magnetic substances by using a magnet. Substances that are attracted to a magnet are called magnetic. Separating solid using a magnet is called magnetic separation. Sedimentation. Rice and pulses are often mixed with very fine straw. Husks are dust particles which have to be removed before cooking. The rice or pulses are washed in water. The lighter impurities float while the heavier rice grains sink to the bottom. This is called sedimentation. The water with the impurities is carefully poured away, leaving clean rice at the bottom. This is called decantation. Separating mud from muddy water. Muddy water is a mixture of very fine particles of soil in water. What will happen if muddy water is left undisturbed for some time? Mud, being heavy, will settle down at the bottom of the beaker and will form the sediment. Water forms the top layer and it is called the supernatant liquid. The settling down of the heavier components of a mixture, when allowed to remain undisturbed for some time, is called sedimentation. Decantation. This process is done after sedimentation. The supernatant liquid is slowly poured out from the container without disturbing the sediments. The part that settles to the bottom of the liquid is called sediment. The water that is obtained from decantation is called the decantate. The process of separating liquid above the sediment is called decantation. But even after decantation, the water is not completely free from the soil particles. How can we remove this? By the process of filtration. Filtration. We use filter papers to remove the finer impurities. A filter paper has very fine pores which much smaller than soil particles. Let us see how to use the filter paper. Take a piece of filter paper, fold it to make a cone. Slowly Pour the muddy water over the filter paper. On filtration, clear water flows down the funnel and the mud settles as a residue on the filter paper. The method of separating insoluble components from a mixture using a filter paper is called filtration.